The laughter was cruel and sharp, bouncing across the cheap diner walls where a group of co-workers huddled over their phones. "Let's see how he reacts when she doesn't show," one of them sneered, sliding a photo of a man across the table. It was a single father from their office, someone they mocked behind his back for being too quiet, too worn down, too ordinary. His name was Ethan Ward. They thought it would be hilarious to set him up on a fake blind date. A woman would never come, of course. He would sit there awkwardly, waiting, embarrassed. That was the plan. But none of them could have guessed what was about to happen when a woman far beyond their imaginations walked into that diner. A woman who wasn't part of the prank at all. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of humanity's hidden beauty, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Kindness Journal. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps them reach hearts all over the world. Ethan Ward was 36 years old, a man who had known both love and heartbreak. His wife had passed away 5 years earlier, leaving him with a daughter, Sophie, now 10. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, packed her school lunch, and worked double shifts at a logistics company to keep a roof over their heads. His clothes were neat but never new, his eyes tired but kind. People at the office barely noticed him unless they needed something. To them, he was just the widower dad, a man who didn't fit in, a man easy to tease. That Friday afternoon, his co-workers convinced him that a woman named Claire had seen his photo online and wanted to meet him. Ethan was hesitant. His life was too full of responsibilities, and he had long buried any thought of dating. But the co-workers pushed, painting it as a chance, even joking that fate was knocking at his door. Against his better judgment, Ethan agreed. He told Sophie he had a meeting after work and promised to be home before bedtime. When Ethan arrived at the diner, he wore his best shirt, the only one without fraying cuffs, and carried a nervous hope he hated himself for feeling. He sat at the booth, glancing at the door every time it opened. Minutes turned to half an hour, then 45 minutes. The co-workers watching from across the room chuckled, nudging each other, their cameras ready to capture his growing discomfort. But just when the weight of humiliation began to crush him, the bell over the diner door rang again. A woman entered, tall and elegant, her presence commanding yet gentle. Her name was Adriana Vale. What no one in the diner knew, not the cruel pranksters, not Ethan himself, was that Adriana was the CEO of Vale Enterprises, one of the largest firms in the city. She wasn't supposed to be there that night at all. On her way home from a long board meeting, she had taken a detour, craving something simple, something real, instead of another polished restaurant or silent car ride. Adriana noticed Ethan immediately. He wasn't scrolling his phone like most, wasn't laughing in company. He sat waiting with a vulnerability that tugged at her heart. Against every instinct of her usual polished life, she walked straight to his table and softly asked, "Are you waiting for someone?" Ethan looked up, startled. His first instinct was embarrassment. Yes, I think so. At least I was supposed to," he said, his voice uneven. There was something in his honesty, the way he didn't pretend or puff up his chest, that intrigued Adriana. Instead of walking past, she smiled and said, "Well, I'd hate to see a man sit alone on a Friday night. May I join you?" The co-workers' jaws dropped. This wasn't part of their joke. They fumbled with their phones, suddenly unsure whether to keep filming. Ethan, flustered but grateful, nodded. "Of course. Please." And just like that, what had been meant as a cruel setup turned into the beginning of something extraordinary. As they talked, Ethan's nerves melted into something else. Comfort. Adriana had a way of listening that made silence feel safe. She asked about his life, and though he hesitated at first, he spoke about Sophie, about losing his wife, about the long nights balancing bills with bedtime stories. He expected pity, but Adriana's gaze held respect instead. Adriana, in turn, shared glimpses of her world, though not the full picture. She didn't mention her title or her wealth. She only said she worked in business and traveled often. What surprised her was how Ethan didn't try to impress her, didn't shift the conversation toward himself, didn't push. He asked her what brought her joy outside of work, what memories shaped her, as though he cared about her soul, not her arrêt. Hours slipped by. For the first time in years, Ethan laughed without forcing it. Adriana found herself leaning in, captivated not by his looks but by his sincerity, his resilience, his quiet strength. Meanwhile, the co-workers who had orchestrated the prank left in frustration, muttering about how their joke had failed. But their failure had planted a seed that would grow far beyond what they ever imagined. In the weeks that followed, Adriana and Ethan began to meet again, first for coffee, then for dinners where Sophie sometimes joined, her laughter ringing like bells. Adriana adored the girl's curiosity, her resilience mirrored in Ethan's. She brought small gifts, not expensive, but thoughtful, a book Sophie had mentioned, a sketchpad for her drawings. Ethan noticed and felt his guarded heart stir with something dangerous, hope. But reality wasn't gentle. Ethan worried constantly. Could he really risk Sophie's heart, attaching her to someone who might not stay? Could a woman like Adriana, sophisticated and worldly, truly want a man like him, a single dad with nothing more to offer than loyalty and love? And then came the revelation. It happened one afternoon when Ethan was invited to meet Adriana at her office. He walked in holding Sophie's hand, only to realize the building bore her last name, Vale. He froze as staff greeted her with reverence, bowing their heads, calling her Ms. Vale. In that moment, Ethan understood. She wasn't just a woman who worked in business. She was the CEO. He felt a wave of inadequacy crash over him. That night, he sat across from her, his voice tight. Adriana, I can't be this. You deserve someone who matches your world, not a man barely holding his together. I won't let Sophie get attached only for you to walk away. Adriana's eyes softened, but her words were firm. Ethan, I don't care about the world's measures of worth. I care about how you treat your daughter. I care about the way you listen without judgment. I care about the man who showed me more honesty in one evening than I've seen in years of boardrooms. Don't you see? I didn't fall for your circumstances. I fell for you. It wasn't easy for Ethan to believe. Years of struggle had taught him to expect disappointment, but Adriana was patient. She showed up not with wealth, but with presence. At Sophie's school recital, at late-night kitchen dinners, on quiet walks in the park. Slowly, Ethan realized this wasn't pity. This was love. Months later, the same co-workers who once laughed at him were stunned to see Adriana by his side at a company charity event, holding his hand openly, introducing Sophie as though she were her own family. The mockery had turned into awe. The prank had turned into destiny. And Ethan, once the quiet man others overlooked, stood taller, not because of Adriana's title, but because he had found someone who saw his worth when the world dismissed it. Together, they weren't perfect, but they were real. A single dad and a CEO drawn together not by chance but by the truth of hearts that recognized each other. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Journal for more stories that celebrate love, resilience, and second chances. Your support means the world, and it keeps these emotional journeys alive. Before we end, we'd love to hear from you. Would you have trusted Adriana if you were in Ethan's shoes? Comment below. Your thoughts inspire future stories. And so, a cruel joke meant to break a man instead built the bridge to a love that transformed 3 lives forever. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories are born not in perfection, but in the cracks where kindness finds its way in.